Hi everyone. Imagine this, the year is 1665, the Atlantic Ocean. 7 independent provinces of the Netherlands, constantly arguing among themselves, suddenly come together to build a ship meant to be their shared shield. Its name sounds like a challenge, the 7 Provinces. It embodied the idea of an entire nation. Its name was a bold statement aimed at England and France. But why? Why was this ship considered one of the most dangerous in the North Sea? How did a trading nation manage to create a monster capable of standing toe-to-toe with the flagships of royal empires? Let's raise the sails and uncover what lies beneath the hull of this legendary Dutch war machine. De Zeven Provincien was launched in 1665 in Rotterdam. It was a powerful ship of the line, by size and real combat strength, comparable to the first-rate ships of European fleets. The Dutch made a deliberate choice, mobility combined with devastating broadside firepower. Take a closer look at its design. A flat bottom and relatively shallow draft allowed this giant to maneuver confidently in shallow waters, places where heavier English ships simply could not go without risking running aground. Officially, she carried 80 guns. For 1665, that was already impressive. Many English flagships had between 70 and 90. But the real secret was different. Dutch bronze cannons were famous for their superior casting quality. They were stronger and more accurate than many of their English counterparts. This allowed the Dutch to achieve remarkable range and precision without excessively increasing caliber. And on the lower deck stood true monsters, 36-pounder guns. Each cannonball weighed nearly as much as a watermelon. And now imagine a full broadside. But let's return to the name, De Zeven Provincien. Why did it sound like such a bold challenge to the kings of England and France? Because in the 17th century, most of Europe lived by a simple rule: one king, one throne, one command. The Netherlands broke that system. Imagine this: no king. None at all. Power belonged to 7 provinces: Holland, Zeeland, Utrecht, Gelderland, and others. Each functioned almost like an independent state, with its own interests. They argued, negotiated, and often voted on every major decision, whether to send fleets to sea, raise taxes, or declare war. Unanimity among all 7 was the ideal, though in practice, Holland often led the way. To neighboring monarchs, this looked like pure chaos. How could a country function through endless debates? What kind of dangerous example did this set for their own subjects? But the Dutch answered with action. By naming their powerful new warship the 7 Provinces, they sent a message to the world. Our strength is not in the will of one man. Our strength is in the unity of 7 equals. 7 fists that strike together. That is why the name of this ship sounded like a direct challenge to Europe's monarchs. Monarchy is not the only path to greatness. The ship was commanded by none other than Michiel de Ruyter, the most outstanding and brilliant admiral in the history of the Netherlands. It was on board the De Zeven Provincien in June 1666 that Michiel de Ruyter led the Dutch fleet through one of the longest and most brutal naval battles of the sailing era, the legendary 4 Days Battle. For 4 full days, the fighting raged non-stop across the North Sea. De Ruyter repeatedly broke through the English line, seized the weather gauge, and personally commanded the charges. It is said that at one point, a cannonball tore through the deck just 2 meters from the Admiral, yet he continued giving orders, standing knee-deep in splinters and wreckage. The ship even lost her mainmast, but remained in the fight, and helped secure a tactical victory for the Dutch. and then, in June 1667, Zeven Provincien became the symbol of one of the most daring and humiliating defeats in English naval history. De Ruyter led the fleet in the legendary raid on the Medway. The Dutch broke into the Thames estuary, captured the fort at Sheerness, sailed upriver, and, in the English dockyards at Chatham, burned and destroyed several of the Royal Navy's finest ships, including Royal Oak and Loyal London. The English flagship Royal Charles was captured, and towed away to the Netherlands in disgrace. After such a shock, England was forced to urgently seek peace. But this 80-gun giant proved itself far beyond just these two moments. In that same year, 1666, she fought in the Battle of St. James's Day, once again holding position at the heart of the Dutch line under heavy attacks from English flagships. Later, during the Third Anglo-Dutch War, Zeven Provincien, under de Ruyter's command, fought at the Battle of Solebay, in the two battles of Schooneveld, and in the monumental Battle of Texel. Here, de Ruyter aboard Zeven Provincien commanded a Dutch fleet of about 75 warships against a numerically superior combined Anglo-French armada. He lured portions of the enemy, particularly elements of the French fleet, toward the hazardous shoals and shallows near Texel. Several enemy vessels ran aground on the sandbanks in the tricky tidal conditions, becoming immobilized and vulnerable. De Ruyter then skillfully turned his fleet, to deliver devastating broadsides and raking fire into the immobilized ships, destroying or heavily damaging them while minimizing Dutch losses. In the center, Zeven Provincien directly engaged Prince Rupert's massive 100-gun sovereign in a brutal slugfest. By concentrating force on the English center and rear while largely neutralizing the French, de Ruyter forced the Allies to withdraw. These are the moments when a single ship, and a single admiral, become the embodiment of an entire republic's determination. And that is what makes Zeven Provincien a true legend of the Dutch Golden Age. To truly explore the brilliant tactics of Michiel de Ruyter, each of his major battles would deserve its own hour-long video. There is so much to talk about, but in this video, we'll keep it brief. Because today, our focus is on something just as fascinating, the design and construction of his legendary flagship, Zeven Provincien. The ship Zeven Provincien was designed and built for the Admiralty of Dames in Rotterdam by the famous master shipwright Salomon Jansz van den Tempel. Construction began in 1664 at the Admiralty shipyard on the Haringvliet in Rotterdam, as part of a major shipbuilding program by the Dutch Republic. This was the time of the outbreak of the Second Anglo-Dutch War. The Dutch needed a powerful flagship capable of standing up to English ships of the line and securing dominance at sea. The ship was completed in 1665 and immediately became the flagship of the legendary Admiral Michiel de Ruyter. An important note for all modelers: no original 17th century plans of the ship have survived. All modern reconstructions, and the most authoritative ones come from Maphoving and G.C. Dick, are based on paintings by Willem van der Velde the Younger, the writings of Nicolas Whitson and Van Eyck, as well as surviving museum models. That's why you'll often see slightly different details across various kits and publications. This is completely normal for Zeven Provincien. Dutch ships of that era didn't win through sheer size, but through smart design. Their greatest advantage was a shallow draft, only about 4.7 meters. Thanks to her relatively flat bottom, Zeven Provincien could operate freely in the shallow waters off the Dutch coast, where heavier English ships with deeper drafts simply couldn't go. In addition, the ship was noticeably wider at the waterline relative to her proportions. This gave her excellent stability; even in strong winds, she heeled less. While English captains were often forced to close their lower gun ports to prevent flooding, the Dutch could continue firing their heavy artillery on almost any point of sail. Inside the hull, the structure was reinforced with powerful transverse frames, known as crosses, which distributed the loads and made the entire construction remarkably stiff and strong. If you're building a model of Zeven Provincien, pay close attention to the distinctive details that give this ship its unique Dutch character. Let's start with the hull and its lines. The ship had a characteristic full or tummy shape, quite beamy compared to her length. Unlike the sleek, sharp English warships, Dutch vessels like this one sacrificed some speed in exchange for superb stability. When shaping the frames, avoid making the hull too fine or pinched. Focus on creating smooth, gentle curves, especially around the midship section. This fuller profile is one of the things that instantly says Dutch Golden Age to the eye. Next, the bilge whales, those thickened strakes along the underwater hull. These were extra heavy planks that protected the ship when she touched the shallow sands and mudflats of the Dutch coast. For your model, make this band clearly visible and noticeably thicker than the rest of the planking. You can achieve this by adding an extra layer of strip wood. It not only adds visual weight and realism, but also beautifully highlights a very typical Dutch feature. Now, the decorative carving and stern. Zeven Provincien was one of the most ornately decorated ships of her time. The stern proudly displayed the Dutch lion holding a sword and a bundle of arrows, the symbol of the United Republic. The gallery sides were adorned with the coats of arms of the 7 provinces. If you're using a kit, carefully check the quality of the cast parts. If you're scratch building, study the paintings of Willem van der Velde the Younger. And here's a key tip on color: the stern wasn't just black and gold. The background was a striking bright green, often a vivid green lacquer, with generous gilding. Many kit manufacturers miss this, but the Dutch loved using green on their ships, and it makes the model look much more authentic and vibrant. Moving on to the armament and gun ports. The ship carried around 80 guns, both bronze and iron, arranged on 2 continuous gun decks plus the quarterdeck. For a realistic touch, paint the inside edges of the gun ports a brick red color to represent red lead paint. This creates a beautiful warm contrast against the dark hull and really brings the broadside to life. Finally, the rigging and the mizzenmast. Dutch ships of this period generally used square sails, but on the mizzenmast they often set a lateen, triangular, yard sail rather than a later gaff rig. When rigging, take time to research the Dutch style of deadeyes and lanyards. They used distinctive arrangements of blocks and funnels of tackles that differed from English practice. Getting these small details right really sets your model apart. So, where can you actually see Zeven Provincien today? If you're in the Netherlands, the best places to immerse yourself in the world of this legendary ship are Amsterdam's maritime museums. Start with the Rijksmuseum. While it may not always have a large dedicated scale model of Zeven Provincien on display, it houses one of the world's finest collections of 17th century Dutch marine paintings by Willem van der Velde the Younger and other masters. These artworks are invaluable for understanding exactly how the ship really looked. Another fantastic destination is the Het Scheepvaart Museum, the National Maritime Museum of the Netherlands. Here you can explore the golden age of Dutch naval power, admire beautiful ship models from the period, and get a real feeling for the design and daily life aboard vessels like Zeven Provincien. For those who want to see an actual high-quality historic model of the ship, one of the most impressive examples is preserved in the Royal Museum's Greenwich in London, a detailed 17th century style model that captures her powerful presence. And if you're interested in the full-size version, a replica of Det Zeven Provincien was once under construction at the Batavia Wharf in Lelystad, though the project was unfortunately paused some years ago. No matter where you go, these museums bring the golden age of Dutch seafaring to life and give modelers like you incredible visual references. Thanks for watching.